Welcome to Auto Talks Energy, Episode 4. It's all about power plants. There are so many different kinds of power plants, a huge variety. But in today's little episode, we are not going to talk about everything, but just the most common power plants here in the US. So first, we're going to talk about natural gas power plants. Natural gas is making an enormous boom in the US because of fracking and horizontal drilling. It's very plentiful, low price. And there's two main power plants that use natural gas. The first is the combustion type, which isn't anything more than a giant jet engine that burns natural gas and lets that exhaust go through many stages of turbine blading. The second kind is what we call a thermal plant, where it's a combined cycle thermal plant. So the first part is the same as the combustion plant or simple cycle. It burns a bunch of natural gas, goes through a turbine, expands there, but that exhaust is still hot. Then they channel that hot exhaust through additional piping that heats up water, boils that water, and that water forms steam and then spins a second turbine. That's a combined cycle power plant. So simple cycle is great because it's super responsive. If we need more power, we can ramp that up easily. Combined cycle is great because the thermal efficiency is much better for the combined cycle. So those are two common for natural gas. There's also coal. So coal has two very popular types of power plants too. First is the conventional thermal plant. So for a conventional thermal plant for coal, you're pulverizing the coal, making a fine dust, blowing it into a huge furnace, gets to incredible temperatures, 3,000 degrees, and boils water. And then, much like any other thermal plant, after that produces steam. That steam goes through a turbine, and the turbine spins a generator, which produces electricity. The more interesting one is the IGCC, or the Integrated Gasification Power Plant. And what that does, it bakes coal and produces syngas, which is like a flammable gas that can be used just the same way natural gas can in a combustion power plant. So again, nothing fancier than a big jet engine on a pedestal. Uses that syngas, burns, expands through that turbine and spins it. Syngas does have the advantage that there's fewer emissions, less soot. So that's a big plus for that. Next topic, nuclear power plants. Two big types of nuclear power plants here in the US, PWRs and BWRs. PWRs, pressurized water reactor, and BWRs, boiling water reactors. Pressurized water reactor just has two water loops, one primary and one secondary, but it's no more complicated on the secondary side than any of the thermal plants. The whole point is to boil water so we can spin that turbine to produce power. The big difference is that in a PWR there's two separate loops, so there's more separation between the nuclear fuel and the water that we use from the environment. In a BWR, we're just using one loop of fluid, so the water actually doesn't boil in the core. And the fuel for the nuclear power plants, we're talking about U-235 uranium, 235 blended with uranium-238 using the fission process. Next, talking about renewables. So renewables, there's a bunch of different renewables. You got hydro, we got wind, biomass, solar, and geothermal. Hydro's great, but really we've already utilized most of the good spots. And plus, like, one of the disadvantages of hydro is that we're affecting the normal ecology of the river, affecting fish, affecting the silts being pushed out into the deltas. So like that's something else to consider about thermal. Wind's making headway too with increasing capacity. You see those huge wind turbines either in some of the windier areas or offshore, 2 to 3 megawatts apiece. So by putting a few hundred of them together, we can make a power plant of a similar size to like a conventional power plant. Next, biomass. Biomass can be many different things. It really depends on the area that you're in. Some places burn. It could be hog waste, gas from hog waste, gas that comes off of landfills. It could be junk from lumber yards. It could be chicken waste. I mean, it's whatever that's available to burn in that particular area of the country. Solar again, making big headways, lots of improvements, about 15% efficiency on average when it is available. Geothermal, again, sort of like hydro, there's only limited opportunities to utilize geothermal. We've got to be close enough to the hot part of the earth to dig a economical well to push that hot water in and get steam out. So you see that mostly in the southwest and west. So those are like 4 big categories: natural gas, coal, nuclear, and renewables. And here in the US, natural gas accounts for about 1/3 of the generation in the US, and coal is about roughly 1/3, nuclear about 20%, renewables has got the rest. But in general, we're seeing natural gas power plants are becoming much more popular, totally displacing coal. Coal power plants are going by the wayside, and that's largely because of emissions and just difficulty with storing the normal conventional coal waste. And nuclear is about 20% currently, and it's slowly coming down. We're not seeing more nuclear power plants built in the US. And renewables, we're seeing, I would regard it as kind of like a slow uptick in capacity. Much more than what's been available in the past 10 years, but small contribution compared to the entire portfolio. So those are some of the common power plants that make up the portfolio. Next video, we're going to explore a little bit more about the next major section of electrical power industry, which is transmission, and how transmission plays a role in getting electricity from these power plants to the areas where we work and live. I look forward to talking more. See you then.